One thing that I've noticed with some of the students that have come in and talked to me is they tell me, I don't know how to study. Nobody ever taught me how to study. When I was in high school, I just did it. I don't know what I did. So being able to articulate and help them understand what that looks like, I think is huge. And I think that's where you get some of those kids that really struggle. They weren't able to make that connection subconsciously of how to learn and how to learn what the professor is looking for, where if you can break it down for them, it gives them that avenue of something to hang on to.
Studying mean to the typical student? What does that mean in terms of the mental work they're doing?
Usually just going through your notes and maybe rereading chapters, but that's about it. There's nothing really past that.
So do you remember the assignment was to look at one syllabus from one of your courses and to identify the learning outcomes. So this is what the course had in the syllabus. These are the thinking skills that the syllabus noted, and this is how the student is redefining their role, redefining how I go about doing academic work. I won't go through all of these for time's sake, since you see I have about 4 or 5 of them up here, but I do want to make sure that you all understand some things that stood out to me. So this second one here says, integrate knowledge, skills, and attitudes, providing safe, compassionate care based on current evidence that demonstrates clinical reasoning and ethical value. Oh, this is one of the students that is not participating, but watching the videos later. He says there's a little mistake in the word integrate, which may be a little typo, but that's not as important. But he says that this goal, starting here at the highlighted part on the screen in the second column, this goal does a good job of telling you that choose the best answer questions will be common, and you need to apply your knowledge, skills, and attitudes to answer the questions. Remember, we talked about that is that evaluating type of thinking. Now, this student did not identify that, but this level of thinking is that evaluating. So it's important to know that so we know how to consciously activate that specific skill. And then up here, the student says a great way to fix his thinking, be able to apply the different medication classes included in there, and he just kind of goes on and on. So what he's saying, just to give you some context, is that over here, the professor says identify the classifications of medications, but he says that this goal does a poor job of portraying the actual depth needed to understand the questions surrounding the classifications of medications and understand the differences between the medication classes. I forget the student's name who put this on here. I know it's a male because he's emailed me. I want to say that you are exactly right. And your understanding of this is going to help you immensely, because I've helped so many nursing students in pharmacology courses or med surg courses, and they're all trying to memorize all of the different drugs and the different interactions. But the ability to classify the different drug categories allows you to go through and think more strategically whenever you get asked the questions. It says down here that that's something that could be added to strengthen the syllabus. You remember the next part was to analyze your own notes in light of what you now know. Let me clear these drawings off. And the student says, my notes show, first column here says, my notes show that I'm a very shallow learner, but what isn't reflected in the notes is that we spend our class time going over scenarios. My assignments ask for deeper understandings, and I study this nursing curriculum that gives the reasoning for each of the answers. Moving to the next column, I'm just going to focus on the green part. The only thinking that I would change is possibly writing some practice scenarios along with my notes so that I can remember them for longer than the semester. And then the optimization action, or what the student would do differently, I would add more scenarios alongside my notes to commit them to long-term memory. Now, great practice. Seen several nursing students do that. What you're doing, if you think about the transfer context, remember the example of transfer is your ability to practice thinking independently in the same way that your tests and tasks are going to require you to think.
In general, it was just good for them to kind of break apart their syllabus so they can figure out how they're thinking and be able to relate to how they think and how they can move it on to the next level. Because I think especially a lot of the students that you have, like the one student writes down everything the professor says. Oh, their notes are perfect. It's color coded. It looks really nice. I don't know how many students I've come in and look at my notes. They're great, but I failed the test. But there's a lot of things that I found that you've talked over the last couple of days that I could utilize in that freshman seminar class. I know we did go over the syllabus, but we didn't go in detail over it, and just taking that time to break it down, or how they take notes. We talk about note taking, different skills, different strategies, but not actually break down their notes, and using that part of it, which I think is one thing that we lacked this last year, but would be good to implement.